Before the Civil War, the woman's place was in the home tending to her family. However, when the Civil War broke out, it was not uncommon for the woman to assume new responsibilities and roles as the husbands and men were away at war. During the Civil War, a higher calling was founded in the form of nursing. Nurses during the Civil War risked their lives on the front line day and night to tend to those who were wounded and sick in the North and the South. In this presentation, I will discuss the impact Dorothea Dix had as the superintendent of nurses in 1861. I will further discuss the importance of field hospitals such as the Harper House. And lastly, I will discuss Clara Barton and Louisa Alcott as the driving forces of nursing during the Civil War. Dorothea Dix was appointed the superintendent of nurses during 1861 in the North. Her job was to staff and run the military hospitals in the large cities. She ran a tight ship, so to speak, and expected a lot of her nurses. First, they were to remain married, as she felt that single women had too high a temptation around men. Secondly, they were to be 30 or older and appear matronly and wear only black and brown dresses. Lastly, she demanded they be punctual and sober at all times, as their shifts ran from the morning until the wee hours of the night, tending to those in need. Though these hospitals in the large cities were very important, most would die of malnutrition, wounds, or disease before they could be transported to these hospitals. These field houses included the Harper House, as we are on location for the 149th anniversary of the Battle of Bentonville in March 19th through the 21st of 1865. This home was the home of John and Amy Harper and their 7 children. This home was confiscated by the Union soldiers and used as a field hospital where they had 2 major surgery rooms, 1 minor surgery room, and a room devoted strictly for officers as they recovered. This home treated over 500 soldiers to include Union and Confederate soldiers. The most common surgery here that was performed was the amputation. They would be thrown out of the windows until the limbs piled up large enough to burn, where they would use this as the form of disposal. The Union soldiers on March 22nd were transported to Goldsboro to a local hospital, and the Confederate soldiers were left here to tend to their wounds. Most remained here for almost 3 months, and John and Amy Harper took care of them until they were able to travel. Barton saw the need for nurses on the field. She received approval from the assistant quartermaster, to stay on the fields and treat those and tend to those that were sick and wounded. Prior to the Civil War, she also saw the need for supplies and food and received donations where she provided for the soldiers for 2 years prior to her arriving on the field. Whether she was placing a bandage on their wounds, giving water for their thirst, or just holding their hands as they died on the battlefield, she journaled about her experience, saying that if her fellow men were going to be in danger, then her place was with them. After the Civil War, she further helped the federal government to find over 2,000 soldiers, whether they were wounded, died in a mass grave and buried, or if they were prisoners of war, and she gave closure to their families. Lastly, she found a need for a program that would provide food and medical supplies to those during disaster relief, and with this, the Red Cross was founded. Louisa Alcott was just a young girl when she decided to join the Army as a nurse. She was stationed in Washington, D.C., and the hospital was an old hotel. Her ward was the old ballroom where she tended to 40 individuals. She journaled every day, and her book was published. She discussed how frightened she was. She talked of the smells and how she was known as the bottle girl because she would carry lavender around and spray it on her dress in hopes that it would help with the stench. She took care of those with amputations. She further discussed some who were shot in the face and others who came strictly to go to the dead house where they could be identified and buried in mass graves. This well-renowned author founded the Little Women. In conclusion, it is not a surprise that women were able to make such advancements in nursing and as a professional and in the home. They have set a high standard for nursing, and they deserve to be honored for their service to our country. We still follow many of the teachings today. The Red Cross is still active, where we provide food, housing, and disaster relief to those in the face of a natural disaster. And also, the field hospitals now are more readily available and properly staffed for those in wartime. Thank you. My name is Sarah Kozik, and this was a presentation on Civil War nurses for History 131.